Hello everyone. Sorry about last time. The internet did not cut out. That wasn't the internet. My entire power, the power to my room cut out, like, entirely. We got an electrician and we got it all working again, clearly, otherwise I wouldn't be here streaming right now. Hey Gerb, I just learned Mr. Beast owns a burger restaurant chain. I think I remember seeing that at some point, yeah. Did he make a video on that? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so the power cut out, and that's why the stream cut out abruptly last time. I might have to check the Twitch VOD, because I think YouTube cut off the last few seconds of it. I might have to re-upload that, but we'll see how things go. Otherwise, hello, I am back. We just missed the camera going, we just missed the game taking the camera wherever we want, around Enoch Drebber, and he is now laughing. Or something like that. I don't have that much time. I need to leave in about 2 hours, or start getting ready to leave in about 2 hours. So I'm hoping we can reach the end of this case. I don't know if we will, to be honest. But yes, I'm sorry for ending it so abruptly last time. What an interesting twist. Has no clue what is going on. When at the time, not one person would take me seriously. Now here we are, 10 years later, and suddenly my story matters, and in a court of law too. Very well then, if everyone so wishes. Let's be frank, Einstein. I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night for what it's worth.
So, Mr. Drebber, your testimony, please, about the events of that night 10 years ago.
Forgot you gave him that voice.
You tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery.
Yes, of course, as you wish. In the cemetery 10 years earlier. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. Yes, the illustration of that newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back now, I realize I never actually saw the professor. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on a dream of becoming a scientist. And it was all because of that newspaper article. Was it now? Wait a minute. You're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now? Of course, you have to have a screw loose if you believe the corpse could come back from the dead. But, so, you're saying this article is not worth the paper it's printed on? I think that would describe it perfectly, yes? Oh!
If the details in the article aren't true, it nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Dr. Sith would have been working together.
So he's discrediting himself to cripple my argument.
Tell me, witness, you claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business.
Aux Cause, Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Can you elaborate?
That's right, grave robbing to be precise. As you know, Lowgate Cemetery is the rear of Barclay Prison. So among students at the university, it had a reputation for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts.
Grave robbing, you say?
Yes, exhuming human flesh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuables buried with the dead.
So you were one of the so-called resurrectionists, a particularly unpleasant scourge on society.
Actually, my fellows and I went by another name, 30 Purposes.
That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir.
Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grades to identify me unambiguously, I might add. I see.
Out of interest, who drew the illustration of this article?
Ah yes, that was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I described the scene. Obviously, as time ticked on, I bitterly regretted what I'd done, claiming to have seen something I never truly saw. Foolish, very foolish.
Well, counsel for the defense, and you may proceed to the cross-examination now.
At once, my lord. Alright. So the reason 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say? Let's see. Which one seems the most likely? That's normal. Given my dream of becoming a scientist. So, I'm gonna press on the illustrator, which I am assuming is Odiusman. Hold it! I get the feeling that's what we need to point out. The strange happening at Logate Cemetery, which you now deny. Not entirely. I ran to fetch the police at the time, you know. I was shaking like a leaf, but they didn't believe a word of it. In fact, I was very nearly arrested myself. So you went to the papers instead? I started big with the London news, but unsurprisingly, they didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was reporters from the gossip rags, the gutter press, that came to get my story, and it spread like the plague through the capital as gossip-hungry Londoners lapped up the tale.
The story was in every single paper at the time, which, with the exception of some broadsheets.
And yet only 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of the accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories.
What about the article in the Daily Circus?
That particular journalist found me at my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. So I recounted to him exactly what had happened that night.
And from your description, he drew this illustration.
Precisely, that's how I learned that the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporter told me so. I had no idea myself, you see.
Newspaper reporters are wont to snoop around in matters that don't concern them. So the scene portrayed in the illustration is accurate, then?
Well... Hold it!
Okay.
What are you talking about? That was an interesting place to pause. I think I already explained, didn't I? Logate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. It was renowned Among Us! Among Us! Among our students at the university for being haunted by the ghosts of the condemned convicts. For some absurd reason, I was scared of the graveyard that night, and as a result, only too willing to believe that nonsense about the dead coming back from life.
But you said you actually saw it.
I said what I'd seen in my mind's eye. After all, resurrection is impossible, isn't? You'd have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Unless, of course...
You have some evidence to prove that proves I encountered the professor that night.
I don't know. Is there any material evidence I could show he could really did see the professor? The camera, perhaps?
Do you have anything at all, Mr. Naruto?
I know. I need to present it against that irritatingly backtracking statement of his.
The point is, that night was a pivotal moment in my life.
Okay, so clearly they want us to actually present on that, but I need to see. Yeah, I need to see if there's any piece of evidence I can get from any of the other the pressing. The young woman being Madame Tuspels, of course.
Precisely, I must say I didn't expect to run into her again like the 10 years later.
As I have explained, I went by the name published in the article and, Commissar, I found the man.
Yes, the article in the Daily Circus, I think you said.
I was a poor student with barely a penny to my name at the time. And the young lady put £5 in front of me.
So you readily consented to having a waxwork of yourself made, and gave permission for it to be put on display.
I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded.
Oh, oui, I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day, n'est-ce pas?
Oh, the camera?
Did you? I can't say I remember.
What was it, Madame?
This camera.
Ah,
Oh yes, I made the point of taking it with me whenever I made an excursion into any cemetery.
You took a camera with you, sir? To what end?
To record the details of the bodies I disinterred. But I had no intention of ever visiting a graveyard again after that night, so I sold it.
I see.
I saw her, monsieur, as part of the special exhibit in my house of horrors. I'm very meticulous about such details. It is the Tuspel's way. It would seem, then, that this is the very camera Mr. Dredd took with him to look at Senator around the night question.
yes, interesting. So clearly that's what I have to present here. But I don't know if that's a contradiction without finding a photo, but there doesn't seem to be a photo, but I'm guessing that's what I gotta do. No! That didn't actually work. Interesting. Maybe I've forgotten, I haven't quite inspected it properly. I'm guessing it's the blood stain that I need to inspect, but... as far as I'm concerned, I've checked everything. There was no photo in here, so... This photographic plate goes, I think, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Isn't it incredible to think that this is the actual camera Mr. Dredd used that night? I certainly never imagined a piece of evidence beyond display in Madame Tuspel's.
She's very keen on everything being as true to life as possible, though, isn't she? Maybe I gotta inspect the blood stain again.
What a one!
Okay, here we go. No, this is the same. Okay, clearly there's nothing else to inspect, so I'm not sure that's quite what I need to present right now. Maybe I press again now that I've done that. God. That animation is so funny when it's sped up. Okay, here we go. Let's just press the last few seconds. This article, you mean? Published in the Daily Circus.
Yes, somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article, and carelessly let slip night after night. I was digging up graves. Hardly a moral student, you might say. The university's reputation was execrably defiled, and I was expelled as a result.
Mondo, I had no idea. And having been run out of university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade.
You combined your knowledge of science with knowledge of stage magic to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology, and use those to test deceptive machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. Professor Albert Harebrain was just your latest victim, wasn't he?
Whatever are you talking about? I have no recollection of doing anything of the sort.
Okay. What's Trevor up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim?
I wonder if perhaps because the circumstances have changed now.
What circumstances?
Well, if he admits to having seen the Professor emerging alive from his grave 10 years ago, it would expose a secret in Dr. Seed's past that you would desperately want to hide.
Yes, of course. If Drebber and Dr. Sid were working together now, then if Drebber were to betray her, there'd be no reason for her to continue to cooperate. In that case, there's only one way around it. I have to prove he really did see it, or if he really did see the Professor's corpse coming back from the dead, as he originally claimed.
Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, that's exactly.
Hold it! By moonlighting, you mean grave robbing, do you?
Surely you only need to look at the graveyard scene and my appearance to gauge the answer to that.
Dad, do you mean my father? Or was it father, you mean my dad? Is that the line? I forgot which order it is.
The lantern and spade.
But who on earth would want to buy a dead body?
Any major hospital.
A hospital?
In order to better understand the human body, the study of its anatomy is crucial to medical science. But there isn't a hospital in the world that has enough specimens to work with. Though obviously, they can't openly express an interest in obtaining more by dubious means.
And as aspiring scientists, we young research students had no money to work with, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Don't call me Pops. Hey, Bank, welcome.
So we made surreptitious,
surreptitious? That's a word?
arrangements with a hospital via some of our medical student acquaintances. We would never take anything of value from the graves. This was all for the furtherance of science, you see. That's what we all told ourselves every time we stole into the graveyard at night, spade in hand.
I wonder if these two were fellow students at university. I could see that. How do I prove that? And how do I pronounce that word, Curb? Surreptitious? Is that how surreptitious? I don't know.
You realize body snatching is a serious crime. If you were caught, you could expect the gravest of consequences.
Good pun. We students were caught between the hammer and the anvil. We needed funds for research.
Professor Harebrain said exactly the same.
I'm quite speechless at the apparent levity in which you revealed this abhorrent behavior.
Well, if you wanted to know why I was there at Rogate Cemetery, that's the reason.
Surreptitious. Okay, thanks.
But I never expected to end the way that I'd get to this day.
I already pressed all this, right? Yeah, which means I think I've pressed every statement, which means all I gotta do is present evidence on the one statement that I think. Interestingly, I don't think the camera's right, even though I got more details on the camera. How do I prove that he saw the professor that day?
Objection!
It's the only other thing I can think of presenting. I don't know why it's right, but... Sorry, Mr. Drebber, but I don't believe that.
Don't believe what?
Your latest claim. You did see the professor on that night 10 years ago. It said so right in the newspaper!
Oh dear, we seem to be at odds, but I was there and you were not. I know what I didn't see.
The illustration with this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalist that you witnessed. A figure emerging from the tomb, wearing an iron mask. Oh, that way?
Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago, it was decided in closed court ruling that the man would wear the mask to hide his identity. It wasn't to be removed, even during his execution and subsequent burial.
Not even the prison wardens were to see the man's face. But obviously, the provision of this mask was not public knowledge.
So, Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard, yeah, we've already had Beneath the Mask said a few times in this game, don't worry. A lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. So unless you'd actually seen the professors that night, it's inconceivable that the artist would have included the mask in that illustration.
Ora, ora! Well, Mr. Drebber.
It's a vile scene, isn't it? If you look closely. And as I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified, which is why I had it in my head that I'd seen such a blood-curdling sight. But afterwards, I came to my senses and realized I've been mistaken.
You're saying you didn't see it?
If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceive you.
Of course, only too happy to oblige.
I can't believe he's still not going to concede the point.
What I in fact witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work.
Hold it! A fellow grave robber? What are you talking about?
Well, I wasn't the only one busy in the cemetery that night, you know. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped.
Was she the grave robber?
So that's the terrifying sight I actually saw, you see.
You're claiming it was just another student on equally insalubrious business as yourself.
Many of the medical students would wear metal masks to protect them from bacteria during dissections. Clearly, the fellow was using such a mask to protect his unknown immunity, wouldn't you say?
But there's more to the story, isn't there? The article goes on to say, in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, his breath then stilled once more.
We might assume that the sexton discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired upon one of them.
If a digger shot someone in the cemetery, I think it might have been a rather big news, my boy.
Ah, well, yes, well.
I can only assume it was an embellishment bolted on later by the reporter.
Excuse me! I had a feeling pressing would get me to do this. Madame Tussballs! Don't take it out of Mr. Sholmes.
Oh la la! Pardon? I was lost in my thoughts, all alone, Fire Emblem Fates.
Would it be fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way?
I thought it was a little strange, that's all. Monsieur Drebber, proclaim this now.
If you don't mind me saying, madame, what are you talking about?
Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you counted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, non? Including the gunshot.
Stop. You might want to watch your tongue, you know.
Objection!
Have care, Drebber. That's no way to speak to a lady.
Please, Madame Tussballs, carry on.
Of course. According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hit the condemned man.
I said nothing of the sort.
Mom, you were very explicit about the details, about the mask that the figure was wearing, and the blood that spattered over you when he was shot.
Enough. Shut up, warning. Woman, you're making all these up.
That's all! Mr. Drebber,
Yes.
you refute the account just given by Madame Tussballs.
I have no recollection of ever saying those things.
Come on! Do you really expect us to believe you?
Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom.
Right. Well, I've already got the evidence for that.
Under the circumstances, I think it best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this witness.
Very well.
Fucking incorrect, bitch.
Objection!
Mr. Drebber, do you remember this camera?
But that is the camera from the fateful night.
Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horrors. It's the camera you took with you to the cemetery that night, Mr. Drebber.
And is that supposed to be significant?
This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed that the lens extends forward on the end of some bellows. Like this.
Hold it!
What's that there, just on the bellows? It looks like a dark red stain.
That's right! It's a rather conspicuous marking on the bellows, in fact.
Good lord! Are you suggesting?
Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a spatter of blood.
Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Seath? It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood, not the blood of some animal. But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all is simple enough.
I propose that Madame Tussbell's testimony was correct, and that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were spattered with blood from the gunshot wound.
Well,
And that furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. There's simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic appearance. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night.
Objection!
But why? Why would he want to do that?
Well, not for his own gain, it would seem.
For whom then? Who could benefit?
Mr. Drebber's obviously lying in order to protect somebody.
My goodness, he's shielding someone!
Yes, my lord. And clearly, It's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professors coming back to life to be exposed.
Well, Counsel, who is it then? Who is this witness trying to protect by lying about what he saw that night?
Take that!
The obvious answer is Dr. Sid.
Sith.
Whatever do you mean?
Imagine if the convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light.
What are you insinuating?
And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was the professor.
That would be an unprecedented scandal!
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean that the execution never actually happened.
Yes, that's exactly what it would mean.
Objection!
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape, not in great
Objection!
But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging. Actually, I don't know why it's taking me this long for me to notice, but it's so cool that Von Zieks gets his own font for objection and hold it. Like, holy shit! Wait, that's actually fucking sick! What the fuck?
If that were really true, Counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would take the honor of the entire judiciary from the ground up.
And it's exactly because of those monumental repercussions that Dr. Seath would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret, even if that meant being complicit in a crime.
You mean?
I mean that Dr. Seath wasn't collaborating with Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asman with the waxwork model and fabricated the autopsy report. Oh, okay. Holy shit, Leg! Lord Von Zieks! Leg! We haven't seen him do this since the last game, actually.
Pray forgive my freshly hallowed chalice, and a whole raft of other discourses courtesy now.
Goodness me!
I guess this would hit pretty hard for him, considering the professor's pretty important for him.
It's just the sort of tall tale Londoners would enjoy. I grant you, an executed killer rising from the dead, Scotland Yard cover-up, a conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one thing.
What's that?
If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night, only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger? Who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever?
Well, I have no idea at the moment.
We have too little information to work out that at the present, I think.
I couldn't agree more.
The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies. And have you considered this, my learned Nipponese friend?
Considered what?
Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor would be to coerce this woman in...
Oh, wait.
Do you realize what a dangerous endeavor would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity?
I thought her name was supposed to come from sites. According to Wiki, her name comes from the word shis. Is that a verb? It's normally shinu. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's a, yeah. Yeah, it's a thing. Shisuru. It's a thing. I guess. I'm putting it, yeah. Shisuru. Yeah, I guess. Dr. Sis.
It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary.
Quite hard to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it. To rely on such stage deception when such as much is at stake would be madness.
Well, I suppose.
This was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits too.
Yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Osman at all. Are you forgetting his death resulted in me receiving not a single penny?
Actually, you do have a reason. Guys, it's right fucking here. He ruined your life, bitch.
The court is already aware of the contract between himself and the victim. Between myself and the victim, no.
There's a contract, that's very true.
The motive for this case runs deep, though. I can feel it.
Using threats to force ahead of forensic investigation to cooperate is extreme, especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving in the first place.
If the research grant was the aim, taking Mr. Asman's life would have made no sense anyway, which means Mr. Dreba's motive wasn't money at all. No one knew how to read back in the 1900s. He was just trying to kill Mr. Asman, but why? What was his motive then?
Your time is up, my learned Nipponi's friend. I'd have to say you have one last chance before the jury lose their patience with this charade. Let's see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we?
He dodges! He dodges! That's so fucking funny. I was waiting for that.
How do you explain why this engineer would throw all caution to the wind and threaten his own country?
At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, counsel, present your evidence.
Alright. What exactly was Mr. Asman to Dreba? There's a connection there that no one's seen yet. I've seen it, and I'm going to present two pieces of evidence to show what it is. Yep, I know exactly what to present then. Thank you! Yes, my lord. The evidence that establishes a motive and explains the witness with Take that! Mr. Dreba, I have here the contract that you signed with Mr. Asman.
Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man.
No, I'm afraid not. As it turns out, this contract actually helps to establish the real motive for the murder you committed.
It does? Well, I never.
What are you talking about? Read it again, you idiot.
I'm not finished. In order to demonstrate what your motive really was, I need this contract and one other piece of evidence.
What other evidence?
I love how it draws it out just so you can present your supplementary evidence without delay. With delay, it has been. Rather than having like a multiple choice thing. It's this newspaper article, my lord.
That was written 10 years ago, and every detail has been examined already. What can it possibly tell us?
That travel should have never been written. It's typical Gata Press nonsense that means nothing.
But there's something significant that this newspaper article and the contract have in common.
Really?
Yes, really. Yes, really. And it's that common link, that missing link, that shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Odiasman.
Seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed.
Yeah, apparently no one can read in the 1900s.
So, my learned friend, point out what these two pieces of evidence have in common.
Here we go.
Take that!
Boom. What these two pieces of evidence have in common is a signature.
A signature?
The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person.
What?
As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Dreba and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Asman's signature at the bottom.
Let me see now. Good lord, yes, they're identical!
In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of this case, Mr. Odiousman.
But explain to the court why. Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder Asman?
Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony.
Grave robbing, you say?
Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative.
That is quite beyond the pale. You just,
Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only newspaper with bad grades to identify me, unambiguously, I might add. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article.
At the time, you were a student of the University of London who dreamt of becoming a scientist. However, this single newspaper article changed your entire life.
So Mr. Asman used to be a newspaper journalist, did he?
He did, my lord. In fact, it's a widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as a reporter.
So you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article. Written by Mr. Asman.
Enough. Stop this endless rewrite of my life.
What?
Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber.
Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
What do you mean?
Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research, but they struggled on with their hypotheses anyway. We all did, only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and battered by some retro author after all.
Good gracious.
Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of rocket was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Objection.
Mr. Drebber, do you genuinely believe that?
Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether or not I possess a talent for science than me?
I'm sorry to say that your words don't ring true at all.
How dare you?
And I have evidence to prove it.
How are you in a position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Fine, if you think you have evidence, go ahead. Show it. What could you have possibly have to disprove the idea I was happy to leave the university because I lacked talent?
Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? You found it at your workshop.
Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science?
What exactly is this trophy, Counsel?
It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed upon a young scientist, my lord.
There is no higher accolade, It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future.
Good gracious!
Your prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drebber? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asman was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist who 10 years ago ruined your life, it's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. The truth is... Finally, he's going to fold. I think Sith's gonna interrupt. Knew it.
Hold it. Ah. Fine. Clearly this has run its course now.
But...
I admit it. All of it.
What? What are you doing?
It's exactly as the Japanese man said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim, on the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago. No.
Good lord!
Dr. Sith, do you realize what you're saying, woman? It's all truth. That day, when I arrived at the Crystal Tower and saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago that I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself was at the professor again, staring me at the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket.
Dr. Sith, you will go along with my plan from someone who knows the truth about what really happened from that night 10 years ago.
All the instructions were there in the note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. I made the necessary alterations to the scene and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There was really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now. Apologize now.
Well, that's fucked.
Why on earth would you buckle now?
Well, there's no point trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out, even collaborate in a murder. But the great lie about that execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished.
So then, Mr. Drebber, what do you say to that? Your accomplice has admitted everything.
Surely it goes without saying.
You admit your part too, then?
I admit nothing at all.
What? Of course he doesn't.
Have you forgotten that the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me to admitting a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove I did anything wrong. No! Oh, God.
Hurrah! Hurrah!
Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secrets, so I went along with his plan. And Lord Van Zieks, yes. I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course.
That's an interesting smile.
I've heard more than enough now. I hereby present the final findings of this court. This trial is not the proper forum in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber. The defendant is Professor Albert Hairbrain.
Very true. It had slipped my mind.
Isn't he one of your closest friends?
As the court has heard, Dr. Seath has admitted to the allegations brought by the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt.
You mean...
At the present time, it is the conclusion of this court that the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objection?
None, my lord.
Actually, this is an instance where it sounds like they're actually breaking tradition. Like Ace Attorney tradition. Typically, you not only get a not guilty verdict for your defendant, but you also pinpoint who the true murderer was, and you get them arrested. In this case, however, I guess it's not necessarily... I guess it's sort of the same, though, because after this, they're gonna try Mr. Drebber anyway, even though he admits nothing, right? And obviously, there has to be a separate trial for the actual murderer every time we pinpoint who they are in previous games. But, yeah, no, I do think this quite blatant ending the trial, getting to the point, is kind of a break of tradition in a way, and I think I'm curious to see where this goes. You've proven Miss Professor Harebray's innocence.
Without further ado, then, the adjudication. Unless the prosecution or defense have any other matters to discuss.
We don't have that much evidence that we haven't presented, is there? No, everything here is pretty much done. I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Assuming we do end, there might be more. Why did Dr. Sith suddenly admit to it like that? Oh, that's true. Is everything right, Mr. Naruhodo? Like you said before, the way the trial is set to end now, the judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. But is that really what we want? What the defense should be pushing for now is, I think, further testimony. Yeah, it doesn't feel right to end here. Objection! The defense objects to the trial ending at this time, my lord.
I beg your pardon?
We demand one final testimony.
What? You don't realize I'm about to adjudicate in favor of your clients, I presume?
What are you playing at now, my Nipponese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of the trial at this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that.
Mr. Naruhodo, what exactly are you thinking? The truth. The whole truth. And wait to bring it all out into the open. Right. Yes, in hindsight...
Yes, one word of warning before I go. If, in course of the trial this afternoon, you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of as well, this particular flashback.
To the bitter end, you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass.
I'm sure Mr. Shorms knew. He must have deduced that this would happen. Yes, I'm here in court to advocate for my client, and to secure an acquittal.
Obviously.
But that's not all. I believe that I have a duty to the court, to pursue the whole truth of the case, until every last detail is laid bare. And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. Sith.
Testimony from me about what?
About the nature of your collaboration with me, Mr. Enoch Drebber.
In case this escaped your attention, I've already admitted to everything I did. The whole truth has already been revealed, so stop wasting everyone's time.
Ah!
As his lordship made very plain, your client will get the acquittal you wanted from him. There's simply no point in protracting this business further with another tedious cross-examination.
Objection!
Thank you.
Yes!
Pray forgive my careless handling of that hallowed bottle. I slipped.
God, he's so fucking raw. Holy shit. That's what you call it?
What is your objection, Lord Von Zeeks?
The prosecution is also cause for supplementary testimony from the witness. Don't be stupid. If there is more to this case than has yet come to light, then I will join my learned friend in pursuing the facts until the bitter end.
I love this game. Holy fucking shit.
You what?
And Lord Von Zeeks.
This is most irregular, to say the least. However, as the prosecution also calls for it, I will uphold the request. Dr. Sith, you will testify for the court. Explain the full extent of your involvement in the murder apparently committed by Mr. Trevor.
Very well.
Pikachu Takumi. Yeah, I actually want to play Ghost Trick at some point. There's rumors of it getting potentially remastered or something, and that'd be fucking awesome. You know? But yeah, the waxwork plot.
It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside his jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately.
If Great Ace Attorney is so good, why isn't there Great Ace Attorney 2? What do you mean? This is Great Ace Attorney 2.
The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state of the secret, is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it.
Great Ace Attorney 3 so I can see Gene again. I hope there's more for this series moving forward. Because, oh my god. So I was right. The stage and the machine were all specially designed for the deception.
So it seems that meticulously prepared. You did well to see through it. You're a very shrewd boy.
So kind of you to say.
And what about this autopsy report then? All I did was record the location of the body as being in the crystal tower instead of under the stage. That's all. That's a terrible corruption. Only my team were aware of the deceit, and then only under my explicit instructions. Nobody else at Scotland Yard knew anything about it, I assure you.
We must be thankful for small mercies, I suppose.
Great Ace Attorney 3 set in France where fish and chips are. Where Gregson is. With his budget fish and chips, because he can't get the same fish and chips from Britain anymore.
Well, I believe that testimony has clarified everything. There's no particular need for cross-examination, I would say.
No, I disagree. Can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Just look at that expression on Dr. Seed's face. It's the defense's right to cross-examine any witness following testimony. No, Curb has not finished. She's only up to case 4. She's basically playing alongside with me. At the moment, I think. I think she's a bit ahead, so she can watch my streams. Yeah, it's Curb. So this is Luveltal. I call her Curb because that's the username she goes by on other platforms. Sorry, I should make that clear. When I say Curb, K-I-R-B, I am referring to Luveltal in chat.
What is it about you Japanese that make you all so doggedly persistent?
Very well, if you so desire, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. I'm assuming this is going to be the final one of the case, but yes, let's see. I'm just going to press everything. I'm not going to waste time thinking about trying to solve it. I'm just going to press things, because I feel like I'm going to need to extract details first. From what you described before, it sounds like the note was anonymous. Did you have any idea who was behind it?
There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago. But anyway, I'd never heard of this engineer. So no, I had no idea.
Yet, despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it.
I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern. But the horse has bolted now, and the stable door will never shut again. Scotland Yard's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of all this. Yes, thank you, Lord Von Zeeks. I'm well aware of that.
So, as I understand, what you found in the birdcage was the Westworth model. Where then was the victim's body?
I cannot wait to get to every case in this game. It sounds like every single case in this game is peak. And it has been so far. There's been little downtime where I felt like I'm not, like, I'm wasting time reading out. And, like, let me put it this way. When I'm playing a game, like a visual novel, and there's so much dialogue, and I'm streaming it, and I'm reading out all the dialogue aloud, if it feels like padding, and if it feels poorly paced, it's immediately more obvious because I have to read it out myself, right? That's how I felt when I got to Cold Steel 3. I was like, why am I reading this out? I kind of lost motivation to read most of the dialogue. But this game, there's so much more dialogue, like active dialogue in this game. I'm not bored. I'm not feeling like I'm wasting my breath reading it all out. You know, I don't know if that, I don't know how else to describe it. Because I'm streaming this in this particular way, I feel like I'm hypersensitive to anything that feels like it doesn't belong. This game has just been so fucking good. Oh my god. So you knew about the special construction of the stage used to carry out the trick then?
It was quite obvious what had happened with the victim in the waxwork.
And you switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you recorded the victim's body as having been discovered in the Crystal Tower, and the waxwork.
I wrapped it and sent it by carriage to the specified address in the specified time.
Why were you given such directions? It's Peak Man shaking his head, yeah.
Presumably so it be recovered by Trevor and returned to Madame Tussauds.
I see. And then you put the birdcage back on the experimentation stage.
Yes, although someone obviously made a mistake about which cage should go where. I thought I'd made it perfectly clear to the team, but still.
I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being a more important detail. Raged in certain ways. I also need to update all the... I haven't had time to go through the thumbnails and fix them up for my past stream vlogs, but I'll get to it. When you say arrange, I presume you mean with this.
Yes, the instructions in the engineer's notes said it's something along the lines of fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Hairbrain alone could have killed Asman.
So, you mean that was your doing?
I fetched Hairbrain's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage and took it with me alone to the abyss under the stage where the birdcage is fallen.
Alone, Doctor.
I didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anyone else in that particular part of the deception. There was a void under the stage where I found the birdcage lying in dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. Then, I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest.
Wonder if he was already alive, if he was still alive then. Then you noticed in your fake autopsy report as a fictitious cause of death.
Exactly. So, the actual cause of death was the trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop.
Why did she pause?
My word.
What is it, Mr. Sato?
Something about Dr. C's last statement. It's playing on my mind, that's all.
I feel like she might have actually murdered him. Actually. Yes, mine too. Dr. Sith!
There's really no need to shout. I can hear you perfectly well.
The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony.
Oh, which part?
What I want her to supplement her testimony with is... We've yet to present this one. I feel like... I'm gonna say real cause of death. The real cause of death being the fall of 30 feet, that part.
Fine, if that's what you want. Just stop yelling, please. The prosecution concurs.
Very well. You will supplement your testimony now, witness.
If you wish, my lord.
This is what I gotta present on. What do I have to disprove that?
Objection!
I wonder if I got that right. That's fine. We're in the last... No, I think it has to be the real cause of death. I don't see why what she did to the victim would necessarily... I'm gonna press this again. You're quite sure of that? It was as a result of a broken neck.
Yes, as a professional, that was more than apparent. You definitely just went and looked at the photograph of the victim, though, would you?
No, that's very true.
Obviously not. Which precisely what coroner's I needed to determine the actual fact.
Yes, assuming they can be trusted.
There's no point in calling your assessment into question without evidence. Let's get back to the testimony.
Yeah. Alright.
Objection!
Again, it's not this. I'm not entirely sure 100%. What did she say if I choose the other option? How about you stabbed Miss that part?
Fine, if that's what you want. But there's really no need to point. The prosecution concurs.
Very well. You will supplement your testimony now, witness.
Is there a clear contradiction here? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. How could she have done that?
Objection!
That's not it? Okay. Cause I guess she could have just opened the cage. I'm gonna try this, and if this isn't right. Oh no, that's right. Okay. I've got a nasty feeling that this inconsistency points to an extremely uncomfortable truth.
What on earth is the matter, Count? Have you lost your bearings?
I apologize, my lord.
Lost your tongue?
God, this music. Holy shit. Wait, holy shit, this music. Dr. Sith, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point. That seems to defy explanation.
Out with it, my learned friend.
There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph. Holy shit, this music. Which shows the victim in the birdcage following the events that led to his death.
Objection!
The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There's nothing new to learn from it.
Holy shit, this music. Yes, we've already considered it, that's true. But we now know the facts to be different.
What do you mean?
Yeah, please don't say the song titles if you can help yourselves.
I believe we should let the defense explain. Where in this photograph do we see the alleged inconsistency with the witness's statement?
What was the witness's statement again? Toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest. Okay, look, I got it right, but I don't know what it is. Okay, so I plunged it into the chest. It's not the glass up here, is it? Let me reread everything. I need to make sure. Okay. They've considered, but now we know the facts to be different. Following the events that led to his death. Is the inconsistency the glass? The point that makes no sense is the one being made at this very moment by your index finger. Okay. Okay, hold on. Is it the blood then? I'm just trying to think what would be inconsistent here. Take that! Look closely at the blood stain on the victim's chest. I guess it is. It clearly extends in a downwards direction towards the man's feet. Oh. I didn't even notice that. Whoa.
Why is that significant, Counsel?
If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected.
Ah! Of course, no! That's not what happened!
Exactly, my lord. Dr. Sith made it very clear in the testimony just now that the point at which she stole the Professor Hairbrain's screwdriver and stabbed the victim was after the grand deception was set in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below the stage and out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen on its side after the 30-foot drop. And if the victim had already been stabbed whilst the birdcage was in that position... Oh. The blood from the wound would have been spread out equally in all four directions. For it to have formed the longitudinal appearance we see in the picture is inconceivable. Oh! Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asman, he was standing up. I see. In short, Dr. Sith, your latest testimony is a total fabrication. Fuck yeah! Holy shit, the music. I knew it, I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction. There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here.
What? What sort of misapprehension?
Dr. Sith, you claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie, because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us has only one possible answer.
If that is the case, what is it, man?
Counsel, you're clearly struck on a revelation. Well, tell us what the court is. What part of Dr. Z's story is shown to be a lie? Contradiction of a, victim.
The stabbing of the victim. The answer is very simple, if you consider the sequence of events. If, when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downwards, as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time.
But as you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage.
Yes, it would, which tells us that the victim must have been in the position of his own,
Objection!
That's impossible. The man was dead, remember?
No, that is the misapprehension. When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force. But Mr. Asman didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came round, he got to his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Sith appeared. If the victim was in fact alive at the point in time, it changes everything. Mr. Odiasman's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Harebrain, nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Seath. Holy shit. Holy shit.
Ora, ora, ora! Can this possibly be true?
Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him?
You hoped that by admitting to being an accomplice in Mr. Drebber's scheme, the trial would end, before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder.
Oh, dude, shut up! You're so desperate now, you're making this all up. As if I would do something like that.
Objection!
Who's that? Oh, that's
I assure you the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Narogoro has established the fact using evidence and logic alone. Ha! Logic? Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it.
What? What do you mean?
I thought it was obvious. Motive, boy. A lacking motive. What possible reason could I have to kill Miss Asman? Asman was involved in a number of criminal activities, from coercion to theft to murder. But there's no known connection to Dr. Seath there.
I'm rather relieved to say that it does seem somewhat far-fetched.
True, there's no obvious motive, but there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this.
Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene. You concocted a fake report, but murdering someone for no reason is a very different story.
No. When you question what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asman, something did come to mind.
What?
What was it, counsel? Enlighten the court at once.
What is it? Yeah. Yes. We saw it yesterday, didn't we? Something that seems strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Seath would have wanted to kill Mr. Asman. The iron mask? Oh, scalpels? It's a scalpel. Or rather, scalpels.
Did you say scalpels?
Oh. It would appear that word has struck a chord, Doctor.
You come on.
Come out with it. It was yesterday when we visited your laboratory. Look at this big thick book here.
That appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of forensic investigation team spending, I think. Oh?
What is it?
It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but one entry seems rather strange.
Really? In what way?
They're buying 500 scalpels every month.
$500 scalpels a month.
At first, I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that have significance, it's the money for them, disappearing every month from the department's account.
Asman's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion for its funding. Tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find where it was going would be extremely straightforward.
10 years ago, when Mr. Asman was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, he may well have stumbled upon information he was researching for the story. Information relating to Dr. Seath's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade.
Her darkest secret? Good lord, you mean?
I know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago. But clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asman in the heart with all your might. To silence a blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever.
You'll never understand. None of you. What we've had to keep covered up all these long years.
As very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb, the truth of this case can never be properly established, unless you speak out.
And if you did decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Seath will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done, and tell the court the truth about what happened. 10 years ago, you told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for, to sever the hold that fate's had over you all these years.
Super high voltage, instantaneous kinesis. Really. It's the addle-brained mock scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can't even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypotheses, their stupid eyes shining like a little child's. They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness.
Careful, Mr. Trevor.
I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it?
So you admit it. You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim.
Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge.
Revenge for the future that Mr. Asman's article had deprived you of 10 years earlier. But the revenge you sought didn't stop Asman, did it?
Which is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see. The condemned convict you saw rising from the grave in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago. If your account of those events was all true, then obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford that knowledge to acknowledge what had happened, even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had.
So your plan required that you abduct a particular waxwork model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well, on Dr. Sith to be precise.
It was a year ago, by some extraordinary twist of fate. Asman turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye about the coroner who handled that bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learned that news, my cognitive processes started to devise the plan.
What a horrid tale.
He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him for revenge. And have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I had to suffer.
They really write compelling backstories for these villains. I gotta say, your actions against those who had ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly, no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. And yet, in carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you?
Did I?
Yeah. Professor Hairbrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis. But you had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded as a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this, your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. Yeah. God, this game's so good. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit.
Lord Von Zieks, what of Dr. Sith?
An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted, and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drebber.
A most regrettable situation indeed. She's made great contribution to her profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Hairbrain.
Yes?
It seems there was a great deal of more to the experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details are brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you are absolved to all guilt.
This whole experience has taught me a very great painful lesson. This dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy. I've been selfish and self-centered, and above all, a fool.
A foolishly foolish fool who foolishly fools around? Professor.
I've spent my life thinking of nothing but my research. Misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process, I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I.
No, Professor, that's not true.
What?
Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Drebber. What happened was his doing, and his alone. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way.
Lord Von Zieks.
And the derision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea to believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams. That's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices.
Oh! Thank you, Baroque!
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
Yes, my lord.
it is this court's expectation you find the defendant not guilty of the charge, which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections.
Not for me, my lord. Certainly not.
This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision. It's all been proven methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever. What's that? Hey, Doctor, I don't know what become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant
Not guilty.
How do they get the money for all those fireworks?
Court is adjourned.
Alright, okay. It's over. That was some trial. These really were the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I want to find that quote that somehow allows for fireworks and confetti. Professor, what a splendid outcome, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Congratulations, Professor Hairbrain.
Mr. Naruhodo! Miss Susato! I am truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough? Enough!
I'm just glad it's been all cleared up, that you realize you were just caught up in a bad situation.
Ah! Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd give the whole lot to you, every penny.
Well, that's very kind, but I'm just a student, so... Ace Attorney probably causes every real life whatever heart attack with how much ridiculous stuff it comes up with. Yeah.
We don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal's more than enough.
Oh dear, what can I do? Aha! How about this? Here's a memento. The paper about my hypothesis is inside.
Well, just as a memento then. Thank you. This is going to be important evidence for the final case of this game. Watch.
Been wondering, Professor. What are you going to do now?
Oh my, yes! What I'm going to do! My hypothesis and great machine die in ruins.
There's Ace Attorney lawyer reacts to videos. Yeah, it's usually just like, you know, it's also fucking React content that I kind of don't vibe with, you know? I mean, at least it's informative about how real law is practiced, but the thing about it is, law is practiced differently in different countries. The Ace Attorney games are much more narrative, I think, on how Japanese courtrooms work, right? And how the legal system over there works. Though, I will say it's quite interesting seeing this game set in Britain. I don't know. And especially back in the 1900s, right?
I must explore the great exhibition whilst I'm here too, and see if new inspiration hits me.
Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea. I can't allow that.
They don't always dive into much, yeah. Lord Von Zeeks, what are you doing in here?
Baroque!
I'm sorry you had to go through that, Albert.
Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying! You were like a red demon behind your bench there, snarling down on your prey!
Yeah, the reactions are always just based on the American system, yeah.
You're one of the few true friends I have. I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution or the defense.
Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right?
I always knew that you had my best interest at heart. Don't worry. How about you show me around while I'm in here in town? It's been a long time since we left university. We have a lot to catch up on.
Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you.
But...
From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets.
But no! Hold on a minute, Baroque! What about the great exhibition? This is the chance for the lifetime for me. I want to look around.
No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea.
Is he afraid of the curse of the Reaper?
Sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes, Baroque.
Lord Von Zeeks. What's all this about?
A necessary precaution. Yes, I think I understand.
You do?
Well, Iris told me that when you leave Lord Von Zeeks at his office some days ago. You asked how Mr. Nutmeg was saying.
Yes, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time, and thinking it was nice of him to ask.
The point is, Mr. Nutmeg is still alive and well, even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor.
You mean... The Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas?
Those in the Reaper's sights meet their end days. Or sometimes meet their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up to now.
But of course, we know that both Mr. Nutman and Gina were completely innocent.
True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend.
Baroque!
Like the moustache Nibonese, this man should leave the country without delay. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once!
Right. Does your friend-shaped package get any say in it? Goodness, was this your intention all along then, Lord Van Zix? In court, where people think of him as the Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless. And yet, sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all.
It's time to go, Albert. Back to the prison for the time being.
Ah, yes, alright. Well then, Mr. Naruhoro. Thank you so much for everything.
Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you.
Best wishes, Professor Hairbrain. Well, once the dust has settled, you must come and visit me in Germany.
That's what I mean. We need a great Ace Attorney game set in Paris or Germany.
Anyway, goodbye for now.
Great Ace Attorney Odyssey. That's the next game.
Now, my Nibonese friend.
Oh yes? I thought you'd gone too.
We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time?
You want to talk with me?
I'll be waiting in the courtroom 10 minutes.
Well, that was strange. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. That'll be interesting. The Ace Attorney is like a mix of both systems. Yeah. The Enigma, Baruch von Zix. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer waits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here goes then. Don't kill him off. Don't just suddenly kill him off. I'm getting flashbacks to fucking... What's his name? The top hat guy from the first game. I don't think they'd kill him off at this point, but yeah. It doesn't make sense for them to randomly just kill him off. Oh shit! Kazuma?
So, are you satisfied? You saved a guileless scientist from a great injustice.
Yes, I think so. I'm relieved, at least, that the man's innocence could be proven.
Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity towards your Nibonese come from.
Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagine you saw me as a pretentious tard from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now, I think differently. You clearly know our ways, so I'd guess that some specific incident led you to your thorough dislike of my race. Will you tell me what happened, please? New music. Okay.
The Professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest.
He took your brother's life.
Client. My brother was Clyde von Zix. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens, he was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary.
He does not look like he was in his teens 16 years ago. This man is what? Isn't he like In his 40s? He's about 35? He looks 40s.
He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then, too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan.
Oh, if it was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father.
Of course, I remember Dr. Mikotoba well.
I had no idea.
I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, client introduced 3 visiting Nipponese.
So, you've actually met my father.
He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit, and it made me a very great impression upon me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even. Just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved.
I'm so sorry, Lord Von Ziggs. Truly.
Client was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway. So he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer. But it was his victory in the end. For me personally, though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place indeed.
I wonder if the professor was foreign, and that's why it was done in a closed court. Perhaps. No, it was probably, maybe not. But the only reason I say that is because we've had a closed courtroom before, back in Japan, because it involved foreign embassies, right? So...
When I finally found the killer's identity, the reason no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time.
In plain sight?
Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires.
A new treaty was being forged, I think. Grabs popcorn.
Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty be in jeopardy, but our two nations could very well have ended up at war.
What? A war between Britain and Japan? But that would mean... Oh my, you mean to say... The professor was... Japanese, yeah, I'm guessing.
When the trial reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time.
Autoplay, I guess?
Time
No,
for you to
it's
come
fine.
face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves now. Confirm it with your own eyes. The truth that's been hidden this past decade.
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, the thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before, was Japanese.
Wait a minute. That face. I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
Is that Kazuma's... Who? Okay. Father.
Father.
I had a feeling. I had a feeling it was going to be that.
What? Father?
It's Joker. It's a catchy Persona 5.
Kazuma!
Look his back. Look his fucking back.
After a whole year, finally his memories returned. As he stood there before me. Ryunosuke.
God, this music.
Hello again. My friend.
Kazuma-sama!
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba.
It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank you for guiding my friend here when I could not.
It was an honor.
Ah, this is so nice.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma.
No, you very much
I
believed
owe
he
you
was dead
thanks,
for a
too.
good solid fucking 6 months. That's a
For
fucking
taking
lie.
good care of that in my absence.
Oh. Karuma. The great blade of the Asogi clan. Passed down through the generations. When we left Japan, this sword was at my friend's side. A Japanese man's katana is his soul, and he couldn't be parted from it. But then, when the incident happened, it was Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword, and I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared.
What does this mean, though?
With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
There's some funny screenshot of Beck and I talking to Cinch. I look forward to it.
I've made it. At last.
Father. Are you saying... Surely not. You mean, you knew all this time?
I like how all the Japanese characters have British accents. Sorry.
I'm looking at it. But... I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
he gonna chop off the head? Goodbye, Waxwork.
Kazuma-sama.
Ryunosuke, we have much to talk about. But now is not the time.
I need him to meet Sholmes. But I'm curious what's gonna happen.
I'll be seeing you.
Okay, he's not gonna do anything. He's gonna disappear.
That's all Kazuma said. Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
So he's the living after image of the man who took my brother's life, is he?
Yes, Kazuma Asogi. My best friend.
3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there, some connection.
But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Van Ziek's apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia too?
The man was apprehended, even executed, but his legacy just won't die. That's the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me as I asked.
Tuspel's molding right now at her waxwork being destroyed like that.
"10 years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. For me, it was the first time I'd ever seen him."
Poor Sasato-san. All this is tied up with painful memories for her too. She's never talked about this one with me before though.
It took time to adjust to having father around, but when I was just starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son, a boy 7 years my senior. Father told me that the boy had made a promise to his late father, so he was studying to become a defense lawyer. I wanted to help, so I started to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure you've worked out, that young man's name was Kazuma Asogi. So you see, that's how he and I met.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned, only to disappear again all too soon. But in that fleeting encounter, something stirred. Something that had been dormant for a long time. As if great wheels had been set in motion. I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter. But in many, it was the start of a new one.
Yeah, because this chapter's right about to end. It's gonna say end in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. I told you. And then the next one's gonna start. Alright. Demasking. Alright. The Twisted Karma and his last bow. Alright. I'm very interested to see how they explain how Kazuma's still alive and everything that happened regarding that. But for now, I think we end off. I can't say I wasn't expecting this, but I don't think the game expected it to be a massive shock. I think the way it's been written has been very nice to not go, "Oh my god, Kazuma's alive! Holy shit! No way!" It's more like, okay, Kazuma's alive, but why? You know? That's what it gets me thinking, you know? For what purpose is he alive? Where is the story going to go from here, you know? And I like those sort of twists more than oh my god, what the fuck, he's alive, you know? God, this game really feels like it's like, yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. I will probably start case 4 next time because I feel like this is probably a good place to stop considering I will have to leave in like half an hour. Yes, it really does open a lot more possibilities with the story. I don't want it to feel like I'm a little on edge about it because I don't want it to feel like it feel like he's alive for the sake of fan service, I suppose, if that's a good way to put it. I don't think that's where they're going with this. I gotta say, I find it hard to genuinely be excited for what's coming next with that doubt kind of lingering over my mind. I need to know what they want to do with him, you know? I guess I will find out in this next case. Or perhaps case 5. Who knows? I'm sure this game won't disappoint based on all the glowing reviews I've heard of this game. So, I'm not super worried, but my least favorite thing is a piece of media that can do is bring back characters for shock value. Yeah. um um yeah, I'm gonna end off here before I say something I probably shouldn't. See you later, everyone. I'm looking forward to continuing. We're in the second half of this game now. And oh my god. Holy shit. I really need to see what they're going to do. You know? I really need to see what they're going to do with Kazuma coming back, you know? But I'm very excited to see what's coming, you know? Holy shit. I'm so excited to finish this game, but I also don't want to rush it. I want to enjoy it. I'm in this fucking weird state with this game where it's like, I don't want to rush it. I want to enjoy it as much as I can. But I also want to see the conclusion and like experience that peak. I want to get there, you know? I think that's a good position for a game to put me in. I don't think it like putting me in that position where I'm like, okay, I really want to see what comes next, but I really want to enjoy it. I don't want to just rush to the end. When a series can do that for me, I think that's a sign of something really special, you know? And that's how I felt about Trails until Trails of Cold Steel 3. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining. I'm really excited, and hopefully now that we're in the second half of the game, Tyler said he'd stay up for my streams. I'm not counting on it. But anyway, next time we're gonna start episode 4. This is the first time in a while I've actually stopped right at a ending screen. To be honest, I think it was probably good that my power cut out last time and actually ended where I did, because I would not have finished this trial last night. And I think it was probably a good point to stop anyway. But yes, thanks for watching, everyone. I will see you tomorrow night, probably. Yeah. I do have a good amount of time to kind of play this game over the next week, sort of, but we'll see how things go. Oh, I'm going to be very busy. Anyway. See you later.